Hi, my name is John Mcluckie, and I'm a very lucky, very blessed level 3 Qhht practitioner and past life hypnotherapist, clinical hypnotherapist. And I'm very blessed, I'm very lucky in what I do. And part of what I do is we'll regress people back into a past life of theirs, and we never know what's going to happen. And in this particular case, this lady went back to a past life where she was actually a reptilian. And it was really fascinating, and from my perspective, I absolutely love it when this happens because I can get so much information. It's like they were there, and I can get information to explore and see things from their perspective. Now, from her perspective, she was on a different planet, and she wasn't from that planet. She was actually born in another planet, and she got told to go there. They were breeding them to go to another planet and to gather information. And so that was her sole mission at that stage to do that. And it was a very mundane, very methodical. They did the same thing every day. They just worked, slept, worked, slept. There was no relationships with anybody. There was just basically nothing. They didn't have the critical brain capacity to think outside of anything apart from what they're told to do. So they had absolutely no free will at all. They got told what to do, they knew their mission, they were actually quite happy doing it because they didn't know anything else. And then, so it was really interesting to get their point of view. And then we went to an important day, and an important day was when they were in the sky. There was actually Star Wars, and there was reptilians, and then there was the other ones. And she knew in her heart that she was actually, if there was a good and a bad, she knew that she was on the bad side, on the dark side. But she was still petrified of the Star Wars and everything going up there. And she didn't know why or what was happening, because she was actually in that life, living it at that moment. So she was really, really scared. And she knew that they were going to come down and basically wipe them all out. So the good guys did really, really well against the bad guys in this one, and then they came down and they started wiping out all the reptilians there. Apart from about 100 of them, there was only about 100 of them left on that planet, and she was one of them. And I asked her, why do you feel like you were one of them? And she said, because I didn't know what I'm doing. And she said, so I have no idea. The 100 of us are just completely innocent. We're just doing exactly what we're told. Whereas the others knew that what they were doing wasn't so good, but they still did it anyway. And that's because they couldn't really find another solution to not do what they were doing. So that was super interesting. So then what happened was, because she wasn't born in that planet, she got actually bred to go to that planet. And then they put a call out because they had no idea what to do. The whole planet was obliterated, basically. It was just a barren planet. So they put a call out to go back to where they came from, and then the others came and picked them up, and then they went back to where they came from, and then they continued their role on that planet. But then on another important day, the Intergalactic Federation, or the good guys, came, and they did the same thing to that planet. So they were on a real mission to wipe the bad reptilians out. And they basically did it on that planet as well. But they left even fewer here this time. And then I said, well, what happened after that? Because I'm always curious and to follow the story and to find out what happened. And she said, they basically left us. But then what happened was she knew that they were watching, but they had no capacity to think for themselves or to do anything for themselves. So then the Galactics came back, and they were helping them. But they were helping them to be self-sufficient. And they stayed for a long time, but some of the reptilians didn't like it because they hold on to, they were hanging on to the fear of they're going to kill us, or they're going to take over the planet. And So their soul contract actually ended there, and they just sort of dropped away. So they learned their lesson, and then they were off onto another experience. But she stayed there, and she lived there for a long, long time, and she got on with the Galactics, and she actually had a reasonable life. Now, because they had no choice, they were actually quite happy because they didn't know anything else. We left that scene, and then we went to a last day, and she was very old, and then she floated out of the body, and she's like, oh my God, I'm so happy to be out of the body. She was so relieved. And she said, oh, I'm free. That wasn't the best experience that I had, but I understand why I had to have that. And then she floated away, and then while she was floating away, her nan actually came and picked her up, and it was beautiful. And then, so I said, well, what happened next? And she goes, oh, my nan's taking me to where she lives. And her nan in this life died when she was really, really young, but she knew that it was her nan just by her energy. And her nan took her to the spirit side, and the spirit side was very much, it's in between earth and source. So some people will call that heaven, some people call it the resting place, but in that place, that's where all the spirits and the angels and the spirit guides and that reside in that. So we found out what her nan was doing and what her mission was and how she was feeling, and all the other guides up there and her relations and her ancestors. So we found out a lot of information about where she was too, which was so cool. So her soul mission now is to look after the family and to watch the family and make sure that they're okay and they're going on track, basically. And then when we were talking to her higher self, I asked, what was the whole purpose of her being a reptilian? And her higher self said, well, everybody has to experience this side of things, but they also have to experience this side of things as well. And then once you understand both sides, well, then you get a complete understanding. Now, and they said a lot of humans, her higher self and the higher consciousness and the intergalactic council, everyone's connected there. And they all said the same thing. They all said that a lot of humans are like that as well, but instead of having a reptilian experience, they're having one on Earth. So they said, please be patient with them, because a lot of people, a lot of humans don't even know any different of what they're doing. They could be locked in a lot of negativity, they could be locked in a lot of fear, they could be locked in a lot of anger, but they don't actually know that they're locked in it. Just like that reptilian didn't know what she was doing wasn't for the greater good, but it was just an experience to learn from. And basically it was coming down to just be understanding and just be compassionate. And basically they were passing on that message. So, and then I said, well, how's everything going with the dark and the light and all that sort of stuff? And they always say exactly the same thing. They say it's exactly where it is supposed to be. If you're ever interested in having a past life regression or a QHHT session, or even if you want to stop smoking or just lose anxiety, feel free to give me an email or shoot me a message or something. And if you're ever interested in actually doing the class and learn exactly what I've learned from the great Dolores Cannon herself, because to me there's no greater than Dolores Cannon, and I'm sort of under my interpretation is, if you want to learn from the best, learn from the best. And she was the master. And in the level 1 class, you'll actually learn from her. It's only Dolores Cannon. There's nobody else that'll be teaching you. So if you are interested in doing what I do, because honestly, it's the best decision I ever made. And to this day, I'm just so blessed and so fortunate that people actually pay me to facilitate these sessions, and they're so much fun and they're super interesting. So if you're ever interested in learning the class, feel free to go to www.qhhtofficial.com and punch in at the checkout, punch in the word blessed and you'll get my personal discount, which is 10% off the price instantly. So it's blessed, and you'll learn everything that you need to know, and anybody can do this because it's really, really simple. All you have to do is just have a really nice heart and just really have a passion for helping people, because that's what it really comes down to. If you've got a passion for helping people and you're curious about past lives or intergalactic stuff, it's so much fun. So thank you so much for listening, and please, if you don't mind pressing like and subscribe, it just helps me to keep motivated to post more sessions. So thank you so much for listening. I really, really appreciate it.